Hello everyone, thank you for joining us in the room. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Timo Peach. I am a music artist and part of the Battery Tour with A.Y. Young. And that's why I'm here to introduce Mr. A.Y. Young! Dude! I don't know how you know how to take a seat. Take a seat. Right, before we introduce our guests on our first panel, a big welcome to you all. Building bridges. Man, why have you brought us all together here?
Yeah, I think in order, I think about the framework of the 17 goals, right? These things that we all need to do. And people talk about sustainability and regeneration. And, I think we're going to need every facet of humanity to do this, right? Members from the finance world and banks like BNP, so we brought Sharisha here, and youth leaders, people with a voice, but with a solution with their organization, like Show Me over here. Just incredible minds, right, that can look at humanity and advise and see the path that people can't quite see, people like Daniel over here, right? And then I'm a fan of the solutions.
A fan of solutions.
Right? I'm the guy that was doing concerts and then using the concerts to get people energy. And when you have people that have created solutions that can power concerts or replace the diesel generator, people like, right? And so I'm happy to bring these people to the forefront and bring us together.
So right in the middle, the obvious point is that you are a music artist. So why on earth are you talking about bringing all these different practical talents together to see things that others can't see? Fan of solutions. You're an artist. Why have you brought us together?
Well, music, culture, and arts, I think, is a universal language, right? And it can bring us all together. And I think it's brought us together today. So looking forward to seeing how we can build bridges, break down these barriers, and power change.
Radical collaboration is the theme. That's bang on brand for the RSA. It's bang on brand for making change that changes the world. We can change the world, right? Yeah, I know. So who have we invited onto the stage? Who are your guests this morning? Would you like to introduce them?
Yes, so we've got Show Me here.
Show Me!
And we can...
Yeah, and let's just first names and then we'll...
Yeah, first names and we'll just dive back in.
Yeah.
We got Sharisha here.
Sharisha!
From BNP. We got Andrew from Stage
Andrew!
Locally here in the UK. And Daniel.
And Daniel.
Special advisor from UNDP. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. Asking the questions of, this is a chance for us to understand your different perspectives, right, on the world here. Who would you like to talk to first?
I really, Sharisha, it's been beautiful working with BNP, the work that you've done in the finance world. You guys are building bridges, you're building bridges. A bank working with an artist, that's absurd. Like, can you just speak more about the work you're doing in general, the path to passion, how are you this outlet for change now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Borrow this, does it work? Thank you, A1. Thank you for the invitation and to the RSA for hosting today. So maybe a bit on the journey of how we started to collaborate together. So I run the sustainable finance engagement on the communication side of BNP Paribas. For those of you that haven't, can you hear me? For those of you that haven't heard of us before, so we're the largest bank in Europe, but we are also really committed to trying to transition towards, low carbon economy, look at the role of the banking industry really, to try to engage on a new form of what's needed to create a sustainable world. So that's kind of the background of how, but away from the idea of the kind of technicals of what a bank needs to do, I think our collaboration started during COP. We saw you at COP 27, and I remember we were sat on a panel about sovereign wealth funds, and then suddenly AY comes up and does this amazing performance. And the whole room is suddenly connected. Before, everybody might be focusing on a slightly different topic or might be coming from a very different part of the world and working in silos. But then AY was suddenly bringing the power of music to connect everybody. And so from my perspective, that was really interesting. And I thought, let's do something together that's really radical and new. And so we've been partnering for the last 2 years on Project 17. And we've been trying to get that power of kind of collaboration and the way that you unite different stakeholders with your music to an audience that may not have engaged on that before.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of really cool, really amazing engagements. We went to collaborate through working with investors, with companies, with governments, with youth. We had an amazing event recently at Rock and Rio with you. So AY performed in front of 80,000 people, and he was talking about the global goals. And that's one of the biggest music concerts in Europe, and yet you're there bringing the goals there. So for us, it's about the idea of how can we bring radical collaboration to democratize that narrative, whether it is with change makers at industry level, government level, or youth and civil society. So
I love what you say there about AY stepped into the room and suddenly the room was connected, and you could feel that it was connected, right? That is part of your gift, and it's part of the gift of an artist and performer, right? So you're a passionate sustainability person coming from a finance perspective. What a triangle that is already, BNP Paribas working with you.
And I'll jump in and say this because I want to, we were at COP, right? And there's so many young leaders and youth leaders with solutions, and I think I'm just an example of working with a corporate and being able to make an impact like a Rock and Rio. But when I think about Show Me, and I'd like you to speak here, Show Me, what you've done, and I call it the young leader movement, the climate movement, the world needs more Show Me's, and there needs to be more collaboration with youth leaders like you. Can you speak about who you are, what you do? You're bringing the world together at COP while I'm trying to. Here's Show Me.
Is it working now? Yes. Thank you so much, AY, for having me here today. Hi, everyone. So I am a WASH activist. For those who don't know, WASH is an acronym that stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. So I don't directly work within the climate space. However, when I first started my WASH work 10 years ago, I thought WASH is just about good health and sanitation, hygiene, but that's about it, and then water. But then slowly I began to realize how WASH is not just WASH. It's not enough that we continue to work in silo, but WASH is a climate issue. WASH is a gender issue, right? WASH is so much more. It's literally at the center stage of the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's why I started to advocate for that interconnectedness piece, because a community cannot be climate resilient if it is not WASH resilient, and a community cannot be WASH resilient if it is not climate resilient, right? So it really goes both ways. Just to give a little bit of background on how I became an advocate in the WASH space. So 10 years ago, and it's a personal story, I lost my mom to diarrhea, a preventable disease. And I was obviously shocked and devastated, losing the most important person in my life. And but I was also furious and enraged to see that I lost my mom to a disease that was preventable, and at this day and age, it's just ridiculous. And that's really what motivated me to work in the WASH space. Then I started to work with so many other young people, and I saw they also have their own passion. They may have their own stories, and they got their passion from different sources. And I was like, okay, I want to build a platform where we can build capacity of young people, give them the transferable skills so that they can choose to work on whatever cause that they are drawn to, just how I was drawn to WASH. And that's sort of how I built, I co-founded this organization called Awareness 360 with my friend Rijvi Arifin. And 2024 is the 10th anniversary of our nonprofit. And through this platform, we have empowered thousands of young people from all around the world to become advocates of different SDGs. And we have seen that most of the time, even if we focus on a certain cause, we tend to impact other communities and other causes as well. And I think that's really important for us to talk about. And that's the beauty of young people. And we got to know each other through the Generation 17 Young Leaders program as well. So shout out to UNDP.
Here we're also on the same Young Leader program, right, for the UNDP.
Yeah, and we have seen so many great examples of young people really taking the charge of collaborating with each other. And you are an example of that.
Drill in on because Timo, what I'm hearing is passion, right? Andrew, Sarisha, Daniel, I'm hearing I believe that if you can use your passion to take an action, and it sounds like through trials and tribulations and struggles that things out of your control, but it drove you to have this burning passion to make an impact. And Timo, I know you're a creative, bro, and we can have this passion conversation all day.
All the long
Oh my gosh, guys, we really don't want us to get us talking about passion. Jarvis in the audience, we know about passion. But it makes me think about what you're doing, Andrew, like in the music space, right? And in the creative economy, and maybe your passion for doing it differently. Can we talk about that?
There we go. So we design and build solar-powered mobile stages for outdoor events. We have a 1/10 scale version here. For the,
Just take a
There's the
moment for the
solution.
1/10 scale model of this. That's awesome.
And hold on, so you gotta slow down. Like, let's say people gotta slow down here. What, right? What are we looking at here?
Yeah. So-
and Andrew, what do you do?
We build performance spaces that fold out from transport vehicles or lorry. This is our shipping container. So it'll turn up, it'll fold out we can do on site to a band playing on stage with all sound lighting and everything with one member of crew in under an hour. My record is 15 minutes, and it's all solar powered. We can do with the full size version of this unit. We can do 8,000 people for 8 hours on a single charge as an audience. Comes with everything all included. I mean, it's one of the other things, I think, so we've been doing solar-powered units for well over a decade, about the same time you started doing battery tour, I think, and as with you, everyone told me it wasn't possible. There was no way of doing it.
You want to do a concert with batteries?
So I'm thinking you've got something to say about starting small and
Yeah,
building
I mean,
up.
it's also, one of the other things with that is that, one of the, particularly when everyone says it's not possible things, is working out how you do things. Because certainly in the early days, everything was very expensive. We did an awful lot of building things that are very Heath Robinson to make it work. But again, one of the other things that's really important that people don't think about when they're trying to do sustainability is there's a lot of back to first principles. It's not just about using efficient equipment. I mean, that's really important, but you also need to use equipment efficiently. It doesn't really matter if you've got something that's really efficient, but you leave it on all the time and you don't need it. And thinking about all your systems as well. So it's not just about your power usage, but we only need one person to set it up. That's a lot less people to move around. There's a lot less vehicles to move around. You don't need to put them up in hotels. There are all sorts of other. It's not just about reducing your power consumption, but the other side to that is that one of the reasons we are solar powered is because if we weren't solar powered, then people wouldn't understand we were green. It's almost like we have to greenwash ourselves with it, because that everything else we do is irrelevant because solar powered is the buzzword for being green rather than anything else.
Do you know what I'm thinking here? There's obviously a theme here already of connectivity and how sustainability is all about connecting. You've got two radically different things that have to go together there. You're talking about innovation with storytelling. That's the point of a stage. I mean, that's quite That's collaboration needed there in your own brain.
100%. Collaboration, but passion, because you're talking about a guy who started roughly, I started in 2012, I think you're around.
Well, we originally started in 2006, but we started doing solar powered stuff in 2013.
2013?
2012, 13, I think it was. It's about then, yeah.
Sorry, it's not about competition, guys.
Radical competition, collaboration.
Collaboration. Healthy, well, okay, right.
Mine's bigger than yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a great segue though, because when I think of Dennis, and now we got to talk about this bank perspective, young leader perspective. Now you're using your hands and building this solution, and then I would refer to you as one of the best minds I know, Daniel. But through thinking strategy and just in general, I mean, why don't you chime in on here on radical collaboration and everything?
You're very kind. And I hope I'm on. What have I heard? I've heard passion, which is always people-centered. I've also heard about connection, but connectivity of problem, right? A slightly different phrasing. There isn't a place in the world that isn't affected by climate, but there isn't a place in the world that is only affected by climate, right? Or you think about the Sustainable Development Goals, everything's a woman's issue, or everything could be a life on Earth issue, or a life underwater issue, or everything's an energy issue, or everything's a water issue. So there's the connectivity of problem, but there's also the connectivity of solution. And that's actually, Timo, to something you came at the beginning, which was about music. and I don't know whether this will just show my age, but AY reminds me of an advert from the 1980s for a beer, where the tagline was, I think it was Heineken, refreshes parts that other beers cannot reach, right? Because I would walk into a room, and sometimes it works. Right? Certain audiences, I carry myself in a certain way and it connects, but there are other audiences that I just cannot connect with. I couldn't rock Rio to 80,000 people, right? And so, going to your original question to Sarisha, like, why is BNP working with AY? It's because of that connectivity and how it unlocks relationships. But I also wanted to come back to the human element, and sometimes it's adversity, and sometimes it's passion. But I'm just a bloke, you're just people, we're all just people, and sometimes the problems can seem so huge.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes worn down by the scale of the problems, especially if you can see all the interconnectivities of those problems and they become really, really challenging. And what gives me hope is two things, and they've been mentioned already: practical solutions that we see on the ground. Andrew gives me hope with his mini stage, right? I love it. But the other thing that gives me hope is the connection with other humans. When you connect with people and you realize that we're all in this together, then on those days when even I'm finding it hard to keep going, it's that connectivity that keeps us inspired and keeps us moving. So they're the two reflections.
Everybody say outlet.
Outlet.
Say plugged in.
Plugged in.
Oh. See, that's the battery to it. Talking about being plugged in to the local level, at the community level, at the world level, and we can power change as outlets.
And I love the fact that you call it Project 17, right? Obviously, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are all equally important. And I'm sure people will have their favorites for historical reasons or personal reasons as to why some of the themes of the first 16 chime with them. 17 is my goal. Right, because 17 is partnerships for the goals, and that's what AY is really about.
It is
about bringing people together and the connectivity so that we unlock it all.
Well, a reflection of that might help as well.
That's beautiful.
So I love what you said there, because I think the people point is so critical. And what's been really interesting in Project 17 is that I think what you do when you connect through music is you bring out a sense of agency that people have. So at every point that we've connected with you and, you know, change makers, whether it is through global leaders or whether it's through young people, what's been amazing is when you have those bilateral conversations with people, whether it is a 5-year-old in a school in Tokyo, like we did with PRI, or whether it's, you know, the kind of head of a pension fund, like you seem to find a connectivity that unlocks a sense of agency of what they can do on their favorite goal or on a strategy of what they need to do to progress sustainable development. And I think that personalization of impact in the remit of everyone's sense of agency, whether it is as an organization, whether it's as an employee, whether it's as a young person, whether it's as a volunteer, whoever you are, in every facet of that person's being, there's something they can do to create impact. And I've found that so powerful in the conversations that we've had with different people that you've met, is through the music, you've inspired a greater sense of agency that is turning the message from these problems being really scary, challenging and massive to, okay, let's have more optimism and a feeling about a sense of agency that we can do something really practical about those issues.
You know what, also, you're making me think something that Daniel was making me think there, Sarah, shows like a connection to it, is the fact, the implication is, in the agency, you get to be you. So, Daniel, I'm thinking you have you're special advisor to the UN. We've got a striking influencer here who's done so much from so young. You're such a character from sustainability, and you've also got a big head full of finance and clever stuff. You're clearly a star. You're a founder and an innovator, and that can be intimidating, right? But what you're all actually saying is, but we're just people who've learned some things and are getting energized by being connected, right? And that's
and
what you embody.
We're all human. It's so funny, like, you know, some people in this space, or sustainability, or just in general, you know, they'll talk down or maybe attack a company and things like that. And it's funny because I think of it differently. I think of everyone being in this outlet for change. And so sometimes when you talk about a company, but then there's humans that work for it. And that human, you know, might have a daughter or care about the future of the planet, et cetera. So, and sometimes inside the company, they're doing the best that they can with the power that's allotted.
Right.
to make a change. And in my opinion, you want to reach all those outlets and plug them all in. I'm gonna go off script for a second. I'm gonna turn this back around because I got a couple questions for Show Me. So I don't know how much time we have left.
No,
but we're almost out. Ain't we?
Yeah, but talk to Show Me.
Shoot, I wanted, maybe I'll skip it. It was just, I was at this event with Jarvis last night, the P Awards. It was incredible. And this big, like, huge finance guy came up to me. And, you know, in music space, music's not investable. Allie's like shaking her head. She's like, I remember this. This guy comes up, big, huge banker guy, huge. Like, he knew who Andy was, the RSA CEO, just huge guy. And he was like, you know, typically I would never invest in music. But he was like, you hit me right here. And then we ended up having this conversation about PRI and investment and how to catalyze, you know, the finance market with music or whatever. I wanted to elaborate on that more because I'm seeing the effects of it. But I think I want to leave this panel, and any panel, I always want to say, you know, what goal are you most plugged into and why, right? And so I'd love to know, I guess we know 17 is you. Bringing everyone together. But show me, what goal are you most plugged in? And any last words and thoughts, throw those in too, because we're running out of time.
Thank you. I know we're out. Yeah. For me, it's goal 6, as I've mentioned. It's clean water and sanitation, because I really think that it's at the center of all SDGs. So yeah, it's very important and close to my heart.
17. I love We Can Change the World. I think that's our favourite song. And it's also, to your point and to everyone's point, it is that really strong power of coming together to work on the solution. I think we can't do this alone at all. I think every organisation might be working on their kind of area, but it's much more powerful if we share best practice, we come together, we kind of work on something that is bigger than the kind of individual, because the collective is much stronger.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing you having that conversation with, or multiple conversations with Nadia, like backstage, Bloomberg Finance, right? It's just like, yeah, all coming together.
I'm going to have to confess here that I haven't actually done my research and I can't remember where around all the goals. I did think about blanking it, but I mean...
Bang on brand, Andy.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
It's okay.
Affordable clean energy.
Goal 7, you're hitting it.
I'll take that one, yeah.
Thanks, Mario.
Absolutely the one for you.
Bingo.
And here's the deal. You don't have to know like that. You know, I'm actually very happy that you were able to say, I don't know. When I talked to the Secretary General, like, it was when I first talked to him back in like 2018 or whenever that was, I actually didn't know what the goals were.
I think the whole project is a great thing. I mean, like,
right?
I think the other great thing with something like this is that bringing lots of different people doing lots of different things with lots of things, different things that are important together, and putting them under one umbrella to make you part of a family that is doing a bigger thing than what you are doing by yourself. And I think that's really important.
That's beautiful.
I'm going to say one last thing, right?
Yeah.
Countries pledge, countries sign up to the global goals, but it's people that deliver. And that can sound like it's a bit overwhelming because the problems are large and we're just individuals, but we inspire each other and we keep each other going. Countries pledge, they sign up, but we're the ones that are going to deliver.
Oh, I love it. Well, we're going to switch up our panel here, so could you give all of our first guests a great round of applause? It's Andy, it's Daniel, it's Show Me, and it's Sarasha. Thank you, guys. And in a switcheroo, we're going to have a second panel for this session. Please welcome our next guests. Welcome them now. AY, who have you brought to join us for this second half of this panel?
The best the world has to offer in every facet of humanity.
Yeah.
You didn't have he didn't have a cup, so I had to clean it. Yeah, you know, it's when you look at media too. You look at media nowadays too, and sometimes it can be a little depressing. Like, you know, youth have this thing. At least I'm in all these young leader programs, and it's like they get really depressed. I think is it anxiety, or what are they, climate anxiety, or eco anxiety? You know, and so having, you know, a voice in media, and not just a voice, it's about the solutions. So having someone like Margaret here who's developed and is teaching influencers how to influence, because influencers are now 12 years old. There are kids on Twitch influencing millions of people, and they're 11. That's not a lot of life experience, right? I don't know if we should believe everything they say. I didn't know that much at 11, you know what I'm saying? But they're in that position, you know? And so I think it's so important to have someone that understands those social media things, right? But can also teach and develop, because there's not a lot of development going on. So, you know, then again, we got to tell, you know, money's needed, obviously, right? Finance. So why not have like someone who's ahead of that, you know, but not just ahead of that. You personify impact to me and people, and it's beautiful, Nadia, to like have you here, you know. And you know, in my travels of trying to bring the world together and doing the Battery Tour and doing these concerts and concerts and concerts and doing the COP and doing this and Davos and all these things, you know, I meet a lot of young people that are part of moving this forward, and Hannah you embody that at every turn. And then, you know, we still need data, right? You still need metrics. You need to be able to begin to, what is the best way, usher.
How do you measure impact and then direct the finance into things that's actually going to create change,
So,
which is what we've built.
Muzzy, can you talk about that then?
Yes,
like,
I need
let's
to learn.
Yeah,
right.
Let's go. Hi everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's great to be in such amazingly inspiring company. I'm Muzzy Dora Jurgensen. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Worldwide Generation. And what we've built is really the solution to how you aggregate all the data that's needed in order to drive impact. And that aligns and aggregates all the way up to the SDGs that can be done, you know, at a global level, country level, or regional level. But one of the problems that the world has is it's really hard to change something if you can't measure it. And so what we've created is the taxonomy to be able to do that, so that you can drive change quickly. Because when you've got the insights that you need in order to go and make that change, you can go and execute on it and then see the impact that that's creating. So it's great to be working with you as we're both aligned around the SDGs and the support that we can bring. And as I say,
And what are you seeing as we toss around the discussion? But what are you seeing as now you've brought this solution? And I'm so blessed to have had that support for Project 17. She's talking about, you know, one of my goals with Project 17 is if we're bringing a company or someone on board as a sponsor, right? One song for each goal, one sponsor for each goal. You know, if we're bringing the influencers and the actors and the athletes in. Awesome. If we're bringing the influencers, actors, and athletes in as influencers on that SDG, if you've got these major artists that are singing about the goal, we want to show everyone impact. How much impact on that goal did we make, right, by buying the record or streaming it or going to the 17 concerts when that tour kicks off? But to go back to you, what are you seeing as you're bringing a solution to countries even?
Yeah.
Right?
So one of the big areas, obviously, that can drive a lot of change is business, government, enterprise, because they really sit at the heart of a lot of the impact, negative impact that's being created in terms of, you know, what they're doing. So we're finding that with organisations who are being required by a lot of regulation to be able to show their sustainability credentials, that they're, you know, a lot of them at the beginning of the journey, but getting on to ensuring that they are driving that impact through things like gathering the data, through changing their business models, through better innovation, through collaborating with partners and bringing you know, different bits of the system together to go and solve those systems thinking. But you can only really do that when you know what the problems are and where you've got the data to be able to show that. So as I say, from our perspective, we're helping a lot of organisations to really start that journey so that they can drive that impact quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking of a thinker called Nora Bateson, and she talks a lot about warm data. And when you're working at quite a big scale there, and also data is meant to be dispassionate, but of course, the data we have and the data that's missing all represents humans. I wonder how all of us kind of keep that in mind when we're talking about facts and delivering things. Collaboration's about relationships, right? So I don't know how you do that in your job, but
yeah, but then that makes me think, I mean, I'm trying to, Marga, yeah, right? Because you're talking about relationships, and you're talking about someone who is influencing the relationships that influencers are having with their platforms. That is, you're, I guess, dictating is a word, some of the information that's connecting them to your media. I mean, talk about, you know, what you do there, how you're making change.
I wish I can be more passionate about data. There's definitely something that I can learn about that. My passion is in storytelling and in being out in nature. I am a zoologist and documentarist, and I absolutely love being on the ground and planting trees and just getting inspiration from nature and nature-based solutions. And I have learned that this passion and this inspiration can transfer to people in life and through social media. And is a very, very powerful medium where we can make huge difference. It's also a very scary place. This is where this eco-anxiety starts that we have been talking about it, and it's something that is now becoming part of therapy for younger generations, because we're dealing with all these feelings of hopelessness, that I don't know enough about the problems and solutions to be part of the movement. And no matter how much we study about these things, about sustainability in business and finances, I've just been at some conferences dedicated to innovation and technology, and I really want to learn, you guys. Like, I really want to talk about it on social media, but it's impossible to cover all of these topics. So,
well, I wonder, Margarine, how you help people unlock that. Anxiety locks things down. Fear closes us off. It disempowers us. How do you, as a storyteller, empower those that you're speaking to? How do you bring it alive for them? Is that a good question? I quite like that question.
Just being real, guys. Just being real, you know, and speaking from the heart, and like really finding that passion, right? And what you were talking about is we're coming from so many different backgrounds and perspectives. And I was just giving a huge talk in Brussels at the biggest renewable energy conference. A nature freak, a wildlife girl, a documentarist, room full of experts, people that are speaking completely different language, working towards, in some way, betterment of the world, but renewable energy is not necessarily clean energy, not necessarily something that always helps nature. And we have to remember that, and we have to bring conversations and representations, and what we have capability of doing is speaking for your community, speaking for your background, speaking for the voice that moves within. And for me, it's nature. It's nature, and animals whispers.
Yeah.
Some of them are weird.
It's nature, and its emotional truth is the backbone of storytelling, right? And a more regenerative future is very key to the RSA's way of looking at the world. So you're bang on brand there for this event.
I'm thinking about too, like, obviously, when I was talking with Sharisha, when Sharisha was just on, she was talking about some of the things BNP is doing, and you know, we always bring up finance, and without finances, obviously we can't do this, right? It takes money to make things happen, and I'm super blessed to have support in that way, obviously from BNP and some other corporate sponsors. And when I think about, you know, your work, elaborate on your work, Nadia. You're head of finance over there at Bloomberg Sustainable Finance. What are you doing? How does this work? You know?
Anyway, yeah, no, good job bridging that through back to data. So we're going to go back into passion for data. And my role, so I run sustainable finance data solutions, but that sounds quite technical. And so you go, well, what does that actually mean? And I think people make good decisions when they're armed with the right set of facts, right? So when you want to look and decide, Andrew's got a great idea, right? But he needs money to make that idea happen. So how does he tell his story in a way that we want to invest in Andrew's idea, right? And when you think about multiple companies, and when you think about large financial organizations who are looking to place capital, how are they accessing the right kind of data? And I am incredibly blessed. So for people who don't know, Bloomberg is a large organization, and we typically provide financial data to banks, to asset managers. And my role is to try and bring climate-related data to banks and asset managers. And when you try and think about, well, how will that make a big difference? And we start kind of from the retail consumer. Like, I have a savings account, I have a pension, right? If I had the choice, a really open, really easy choice to say, do I want to put my money on something that'll help the climate or hinder it? I'd probably prefer help, right? And if you ask the average UK consumer, they would say, yeah, 66% of them say if cost was not an issue, I would prefer to have a green savings account. I would prefer to have a green pension, right? So if you've got 2/3 of UK savings money saying, I'd like to do good green things, then the people that place that money have to find good green things to put that money into, right? Things like Andrew's great idea. Yeah. And so if we are able to give those decision makers, number one, the mandate that says, I need to invest in a climate-friendly way, and then number two, access to data that says, what is a climate-friendly way? Where do I put that capital? Then you can start to mobilize and make really big change. And so I have a real privileged position where I'm able to gather that data and make it accessible to the people that make those decisions. And I also, and I think AY through when you and I met when we were out in Japan, I also have a really privileged...
At PRI, when I did not have that. By the way, like, wait, it's steps every day. Like, it's funny, I just worked with Wardor, they're a company here, and they do branding, and they connected with, like, Canterbury or something, and we just did, after 12 years, the first battery to a Product 17 impact report. I never realized how important it was. You know, I've complained a lot. In a lot of ways, I'm like, I need 17 sponsors. I only have 3. How am I going to get Product 17 to happen without the money? But now it's so funny listening to you because I'm like, crap, there was a lot of data stuff I probably needed. And I had done like 950-something concerts, 953. We just did LA Live. LA Live is this really big, like, crypto arena. It's a big deal, like, in LA. And we just did that with clean energy. But it's you know, yeah, so this, you're even blowing my mind here of like, wow, the data is very important. How do you measure the impact? I didn't mean to cut you off there, or I continue, but I had a moment there of like,
no,
wow, it's so important.
Have the moment, always have the moment.
I mean, I think, I'll say this, let me say, I'll add this too, because I'm in the young leader kind of movement, right? I'm one of the 17, I'm UNDP, all these young leader programs, and I'm not sure a lot of the youth know that too, right? Like they may think they have the solution. I've always thought I had the solution. I'm like, battery tour, show 800, give me the money, you know what I mean? Or now with Product 17, it's like, I'm doing this thing, it should be this easy. But, you know, being at PRI, being around these asset managers, hedge fund directors, I'm like, wow, I might be missing some things. And so it'd be nice to hear from you, because you're around our youth that have so many solutions. It's taken me a long time to even get to a place of having an impact report. Like, you know, but what's up?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, AY. And, you know, just going back to your point, actually, about the data, I will go back to that because I can definitely relate to that with the work we do. But I'm the COP29 Partnerships Officer for Generation Climate Europe. And Generation Climate Europe is Europe's largest climate youth NGO. And I also have my own company in e-waste recycling. So we connect businesses to recycling providers. And so what in this journey that I've found is the significance between health and climate change. And, you know, coming from a place in Liverpool, which is a very metropolitan city, come from one of the most deprived areas in that city, and we never really got any exposure to that, so it was never a place for me that I could relate to or even, you know, tell my own story in that way, going back to your point before, until I was 17 and I got a work placement at a ex-illegally deforested palm oil site in Borneo, and that got turned into a conservation site. So the name is called Tropical Rainforest Research Conservation Center, and I was there for about 4 months in the middle of this jungle, really, really remote. And of course, as you can imagine, everything was so clear, clean, like the air. Of course, it was very humid, but it felt like something I had never experienced before. And then fast forward, I got back to Liverpool, and you know, I came back to this city, which was the air felt dirty. You can almost feel the heat from the urban pollution. And that's when I really started to realize, okay, how can people like me in an area from Toxteth in Liverpool find a space where we can protect the environment in cities? And that's when I found environmental planning, and that's when I started my journey in that, and I'm about to continue at Oxford University in Sustainable Urban Development. But Thank you.
Yeah.
I realize, how big of a thing air pollution is in the UK, and the fact that plastics are even in our food now. In every single one of us, there is probably thousands of tiny microplastics within us without even realizing. And that's causing a lot of cancer in young people as well. And I can say this as a cancer survivor myself, just as last year. And, the hospital staff, they tell me all the time, we're constantly inundated with so many more young people. And again, that, caused that passion of why is this happening, I think that's when, collectively as a society, we really need to start questioning where's our food coming from, how are we growing it? And, what's in our rivers, what's in our oceans, because it's so polluted to a point where now so many more people are getting sick. And I also volunteer for the Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust, and they have the same problem. They said now we're so inundated with young people joining the trust. And a part of me did start to think, I wonder if it has anything to do with, climate change, because at the end of the day, human health is also planetary health. So that's a big thing that I'm trying to really push towards. And I think as well, going back to your point about storytelling, trying to find a way where we can make it relatable as well. And I think a big part of that is through the arts, which outside of university and the work I do as well, I do a lot of that in my own personal life, and I do tend to find that people who don't see it and who don't really know anyone in the environmental industry, that's the first way they can find the joy and the fun in it, because sometimes, not everyone does have the same passion as all of us, and how can you kind of translate that, to other people?
Joy and fun. That sounds pretty alien concept. Have you got nothing to say about that?
Well, I mean, what I was going to say is, I was saying, whispering that to you, like, I see this thread. But I see a thread. And it's funny you mentioned art. Obviously, Project 17 is art, and we're using culture to, and I love the framework of the goals, because that, you're right, everyone's not about the same thing. We're all very different people. But the thread that I'm seeing is we kind of all need each other, right?
Absolutely.
We're kind of all these outlets for change. You know what I mean? We need the stories told. Heck yeah, good singing voice. We need the data. We need, to even understand how to do this. I'll turn it over to you, and then you can prompt more. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking about, the big experience you had that wonked your life by being dumped in a completely different environment, and then you come back to Toxteth. How do you start to make the connection to you come back and see the people, you've arrived back from a different planet. How did you start to try and make the connections with all your the people rooted in the same place you come from?
Good question. Well, I don't know if this mic is actually on, but speaking a little bit now. Well, the first thing that I noticed actually was the amount of climate deniers there actually was. And like I was saying before about health, maybe not everyone can relate on being able to, act on climate or get into activism, because at the end of the day, it can be a very privileged issue to sort of have that extra time, which not everyone has. People have full-time jobs, people have families. It's not the number one thing that, is on their priority list. But what everyone can agree on is health. And I think when you start to share those stories and actually start telling people, hey, look, once the air starts getting more polluted and, there's microplastics in our foods, in our bodies, then people, a switch flicks, basically. And I've found that a lot in, the work I do, people are really surprised by it, And I think when you've been in that industry a few years, I'm 23 now, but I got into it when I was 17. It still feels like a long time for me, where I'm kind of used to it, and I'm like, it kind of seems like common sense, but it's actually not. A lot of people don't know these things, and if they're not exposed to it, why would they? But I suppose, the thing that I do to kind of get people involved is through community initiatives. So Urban Upcycle, which was formerly called E-Waste Consult, even though we specialise in e-waste, what we try and do is clean up the city as well. So sometimes we'll host monthly events and we'll just pick up plastics, and it's a very simple concept, but when you sort of meet the people on that journey, people find a hobby in it as well. And now we have so many people who do actually come to these things, and people do it for the social as well. So it's such a nice way that you can actually advocate
Love
for the
it.
environment and socialize too.
I'm gonna throw a curveball real quick back to. I'm gonna call you Muzzy. Is that cool? That's what everybody calls her, Muzzy, one time. And Nadia, so what are the struggles? I'm here. I've heard some struggles here from on the nature side with you in general. What are some of the struggles? What are some of the things that you need to scale to grow what you're doing? And it's hard to. But I guess for some people it might be hard to believe that a Bloomberg could have struggles or your job could have struggles. But I'd love to know from you too. So let's talk to me.
Struggles, gosh. So look, I think sustainability is just steeped in complexity anyway, which is one of the reasons why a lot of organizations struggle with starting and with continuing and actually driving something out at the end of it. So a lot of what we've designed is to help people with that complexity and the struggles that they're facing in terms of being able to create something that allows them then to be able to direct that finance into the outcomes that they need to. I think there's a lot of for people to understand sustainability, there's still a lot of education that needs to come. You're absolutely right. There's lots of people who don't understand yet the importance of what they can be doing to help. We're seeing a huge wave of people moving in terms of their careers to go and focus on green careers and green skills and what they can do to drive impact within their organizations, and being able to support that through education and practical ways of supporting those transferable skills are areas where we're helping with that as well. We had a great chat earlier about what I can't remember the phrase that you called it, greenfluencers, and showing those inspiring people who are making amazing changes in the world and giving them the platforms for the areas that they're impacting and can change. So I think it's about how we're all supporting each other in terms of the areas where we're trying to.
And I guess I wanted to also know what I've been bad at, guys, my whole life is just being this is what I need. I need X, Y, and it sounds like you probably need to be connected to more organizations, companies, things like that are looking for the data, right? Or so you can provide them what they need to take
absolutely.
Next steps.
And look, the whole point of the data is if we're all aiming in the same direction, we're all measuring things in the same way, we're all driving outcomes towards the 17 SDGs, we're all supporting in terms of flowing that finance into the areas that actually drive impact, then we're all ensuring that we've got this more sustainable future. But if we're all off in different directions, defining it in a different way, measuring things in a different way, it's really difficult then to create the change that we want to see.
Creating some, totally.
I was just thinking about the issue of connections and challenges. Coming to you next, Nadia, just briefly, you're in Bloomberg, right? But that sounds like a big platform, but are you just the X-Files in the basement? We have a Nadia, but what's it like? How connected do you feel to getting solutions and getting to apply the data you've got? How stranded do those data assets sometimes feel, or do you feel very plugged into a network?
Yeah, no, I'm super fortunate. We have a founder who cares passionately about climate change. And so the role and the function and our responsibility to help people make good decisions, sustainability makes good economic sense, right? If you do the right thing, it's going to build new industries, it's going to create new jobs. And as a result of that, living sustainably is something that, to your point, should be aspirational, right? It should be mainstream. And I think that change can sometimes feel like friction. If you think about it in your day-to-day life, like I want to do the best I can. How do I limit the amount of waste I produce? How do I limit my own footprint in what I do with the travel, work, etc.? And those things can be really hard to understand, even the very simple point, and I think I was sharing this anecdote with someone earlier, like when you go and you get disposable cutlery, should it be plastic, should it be wood, frankly, it should be neither, right? I should be carrying my knife and fork around with me at all times, should I choose to eat. And some of that change is difficult, right? And our job through all that change is to enable good decision making with data. And so one really simple example, we had a behavioral scientist that came and spoke to us us at one of these events, and it was really interesting. And he just gave one very simple example. He said, do you want to buy a shower at a normal shower price, or do you want to buy a super energy efficient shower at a high price? And he said 80% of consumers, when sampled, said like a normal shower, thank you very much. And he said, what if I added the savings, so the financial savings you made through the energy efficiency, so that you actually were able to make a good decision? And 80% switched their choice. Said, I'd prefer the more expensive one because it's actually not more expensive. And so when you empower people with data, what you are actually giving them is something that allows them to make better decisions. And I think that is critically important at a consumer level, but also when you're looking at financial professionals who want to access.
And I would say, add to your statement, data and storytelling, right? Yeah, I don't know if we just... Data and storytelling. This is what what you're saying is kind of what built Project 17. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, we want to educate and raise awareness, music, right? But we need the data. That's why I approached Manjula and you guys back in the day. But you've got to have the storytelling too, right? That's why you want to have a docu-series. That's why you want to plug in these influencers to tell the story in a dope way. Because no offense, some of the stuff you be saying is cool, but I don't know what you're really talking about, but it's really intelligent. But I'm like, what is she saying? But the storytelling helps. Turn it back. We were at this panelist, so we got not much time.
We're coming to the end of our panel, but do you want a very quick, last thing like we did with our previous panel, perhaps? A last thought from you, Mark Green.
Yes, of course. I don't know if this is working.
And ask her what goal she cares about.
What goal do you care about?
So many goals.
And why?
So many goals I care about. Yeah. I think something is brewing. Okay, stay put. Inspiration, first of all. I feel that this panel and this group and all coming here together will bring results that we are not aware of right now. And this is very powerful and very exciting, and this is what is the truth of collaboration. Coming back to music, and this is why we're all here together, sort of, through the vibes of the music. I came to Kenya. I was there for half a year. We filmed 4 documentaries about mangroves and communities and ocean plastic. But I came there to film conversations about sustainability and climate change at the festival setting. So our project was to interview festival goers about how they feel about climate change in this very unconventional setting. And it was a great project, loved it. I was laying down under this 2,000-year-old baobab tree, thinking and feeling fulfilled that we created this content and we asked people about these conversations. And I was looking at this tree and just feeling like, wow, but what if this is not enough? What if we're just gonna still fuck it up with this festival? If it goes too big, if we go too fast with all of that and pushing the stories and impact when we're not ready yet. So the message is in slowing down and understanding and learning and reflecting and taking time to not just for the big corporations and businesses to write these impact reports, but for us to understand what have I done, how can I do it better, what should I change in myself and my systems and my voice so this message is more clear, so we're more connected, more united. This impact is coming from within, from the heart, and is actually.
That is beautiful. And so it's an irony that I've now got to go, that's great, slow down. Now I've got to wrap up. That was beautiful.
We need to take a breather.
Yeah. I think we have. Am I right in saying we've run out of time? Or, I would love to hear something else before we go. Yes, thank you, Margaret.
Can I?
That's what I would. So same kind of thing, and keep track of kind of what goal you care about and why. And last words.
Yep. Last words quickly. I suppose not so much last words, it's actually a quick question I had. Actually, the finance world, that's kind of a completely different world to me, but when I was working for Tropical Rainforest Research and Conservation Centre, the number one thing that was talked about, and even when I met up with them recently, they said, Hannah, with the data, it takes years, they're restoring an ex-illegal forest palm oil site that is actually takes over 25 years to do sometimes, and the funders want immediate results. How can we, tackle that problem when there's environmental organizations out there that it takes years to do, and sometimes the results aren't actually successful?
Yeah.
And we don't have too much time for
Sorry,
So
no worries.
Sorry, time. Because the goals of the framework and the premise, and we're here, Price 17 is kind of brought under the umbrella of the goals, and some people may not know and can you give me like a kind of
Favorite
what
one?
care about, and your
Yes.
ending. Sorry.
That's okay.
We can chat afterwards.
Yeah.
There's
And
a-
anyone else, if you have the answer, please let me know. I'm definitely curious.
Another vote for number 17, because at the heart, I think it's about collaboration and partnership and bringing the diversity of thought of all of the great ideas and solutions that everybody has together, because we can't all do it. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to share in how we can collaborate. So that's mine.
Sorry to be very corporate here. My favourite is all of them, because it is my job and responsibility to deliver data across every aspect. So that is my answer, I'm afraid.
Can you one-word response? What goal?
Nature, climate action,
13.
nature and planet,
15.
the animal one, life underwater,
14. That's
renewable
3 goals.
energy.
Good stuff, girl. You got it.
There's all communities. Let's go.
Climate Action SDG 13, which I've actually got my green together band. Climate Action
on
here,
brand.
so representing that.
You need this.
And SDG 11, of course, Sustainable Cities.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Take it home.
I should take it home.
I think you should take it home. But we.
Make some noise for our panelists one time.
Hey! Woo!
I'm gonna keep the ending really short. If you guys are paying attention, you're seeing every facet of humanity like uniting. That's what I'm here to do. My purpose is to entertain the world, but it is to make a difference, right? So my name is AY. I'm founder of the Battery Tour. We create this 501c3 Project 17, and over the next couple of years, we are plugging in at least 17 sponsors, corporates, people that care about any one of the goals, 17 artists, at least 17 influencers, athletes, actors, right, to the goal they care about. So we can put this music out. 100% of it will be donated to organizations that do the work. So we're looking for nonprofits that do the work. We're looking for people that make it happen. We're looking for the solutions. So we can bring them to the world and bring the world together. Thank you so much for changing the world.
Thank you, Mark Green, Nadia, Mazidora, and Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you for watching at home, and thank you for being here in the room. And we'll see you for the next panel in about an hour. Thank you very much.
Sit down. Oh, it's not. I didn't see who'd been sitting here.
It made a lot of sense. Don't worry, we got it.